We heartily welcome Nadège Rochelle, Healthcare Compliance Officer at Janssen, Italy. She has over 10 years of experience in ethics and compliance roles in the healthcare industry, building compliance programs and promoting a culture of compliance. Convinced that ethics and compliance are a competitive advantage, she's also a lecturer at ECEC for the Advanced Healthcare Compliance Implementation Leadership Program. She's a regular speaker at SCCE conferences, and she's co-chair of the association Ethics Professional. Nadège believes ethics is key for a successful society, and we as compliance professionals play a fundamental role in changing the perception of our function in order to transform it into a strategic asset.
Hi everyone, welcome to the session. So we are going to be speaking about compliance being our competitive advantage. So towards society that is towards more ethics, more ethical society. We can see that we have a trend in having more ethical society. We can see it from the ESG, and we spoke about it just in the presentation before. We can see it also from the new generation. We have some survey that speaks about the Generation Z, which says that they represent 30% of the whole population, which is the largest population in the world. And those Generation Z, they are really truly about purpose. They are really focusing about purpose. Purpose of ethics and trust, and actually there is a McKinsey survey that says that 73% of those people would buy from companies they believe that are ethical, and 70% would look at companies to be more taking stage on social values. So you can see that we have the Generation Z that is really focusing on ethics and doing the right thing. We have the ESG tendencies where companies have so many new requirements to do. And recently, we have the US Department of Justice that mentioned that they want the compliance program to reduce risk, to make sure we mitigate, we prevent violation, but also create a culture of compliance and ethical behavior. So we can see that you have this tendency, and therefore we have the evolution of the compliance program. So those compliance programs, you can see, we started from having extrinsic value of complying. So a compliance program where you have to comply because you want to avoid punishment. Then you have the compliance program where you position compliance as a competitive advantage. And then the last piece, which is the one where we all want to go towards to, is the compliance program where intrinsic value of complying. So you comply because if it is the right thing to do. So we can see we are going towards a culture of compliance, where as a compliance function, there is a need for us to move from an influencer without authority to a cultural game changer, where people do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. So how do we do that, right? It's not an easy task. So with this evolution of the need of compliance culture, I am convinced that the compliance community has a fundamental role to play in creating a compliance culture by becoming invited in, creating compliance addicts, and measure the behavior change. So we are going to look at how do we become invited in. So people buy in because somehow they have connected you have connected with them personally. So you need to have some human skills related to human skills to be able to connect with your audience. And this is not something you can see. The study was from 2006, but it's something we see more and more in the compliance officer. And I'm going to share with you this this white paper that was developed by PwC in 2023, so this year in February, where they're speaking about the new type of compliance officer, and I would say I added to be invited in. So we can see today we have lawyers, we have paralegals, compliance professionals. This is a traditional function of a compliance officer. Then we can see that they have tomorrow, and they're looking at tomorrow different type of profile that as of today we hadn't seen before. So you had data scientists, behavioral analysts, you had cultural experts, and you can see those different profiles that kind of fit with this need of culture of compliance. And with those type of profile, there is different type of skills as well. And you can see you have creativity. Who is a creative lawyer in the room, or in the audience? I'm not sure we have so many creative lawyers. At least lawyers are not, famous to be creative. Marketing as well, data science, storytelling, and business acumen. So those are the new skills for compliance officers to be able to shift and change, impact the culture of compliance. So that's what it is. And these are the skills to become invited in. So I love this picture. I use this picture quite a lot. You can see it's a door. So sometimes, often, the compliance officer, we can be seen as the one pushing the door and trying to go inside and pushing to be accepted by the business. This could create reactance. And reactance is a psychological effect that is created in people's brain when something is reducing the freedom. So you can imagine about a rule-based compliance where you have a SOP and the paragraph 10 that tells you that you cannot do this, you create reactance. While what we are trying to do when you become invited in is to create acceptance. So having the room being open to you and where people really accept and see the value of compliance. And acceptance has also some psychological effect, but it creates positive emotion, and it creates people being more innovative. And this is related to value-based compliance. So you're speaking about the value. Why is it important to comply? Why is it important? What these rules, what does it matter? And I think it's also easier to convey the messages than speaking about the rules. Also, as we are working and living in an environment where the regulatory environment is changing all the time, it's easier for us to speak about values than speaking about rules, because the rules will change and they change all the time. And we had the session this morning on ESG, and you will have a lot of sessions speaking about all the rules that are coming and changing, but the values are something that really help you, especially in the gray area, gray zone, where there is no guidance yet. So how do we create compliance addict? So you could see that we spoke about the skills. We need to be a bit more creative, a bit of more marketing. How do we create those compliance addict? And I would speak to you about the power of positive emotion. So positive emotion have psychological power of broadening your scope of attention, enlarging your cognitive context, and creating more stable and supportive relationships. So we want to create those positive emotions for our teams, for people we work with. So creating positive emotion and compliance to support and change the perception and not be the police of the company, the department that is at the last door in the office, close to the bathroom. You have to focus on the values rather than the rules. Speaking about the value, what does it matter? Working for a healthcare company, we matter about patient. This is, if something goes wrong, someone could be hurt. So we are speaking about patient. Why is it important to do that? Also super important to understand your customer and engage in them, speak their languages. So I will show you a couple of examples of SOP have developed within my organization. Those SOPs cannot be done in a legal languages, because you're not speaking to lawyers. You're speaking to people with business, in the business organization. Sell compliance to your organization. So making sure that people understand that compliance is important, sell it, market it, and make it easy. I think it's those key rules to make sure that you can help and change the perception of compliance. So how did I do that? Oh, I've tried to do that. So I'm going to share a couple of examples on how do we communicate differently and how we try to market compliance in the team. And here you can see, this is the new set of procedure. Yes, those are compliance procedure. Those are new set of procedure where we have put color codings. We have those colors for theme. And also we've included color coding for function. So people will just need to know their function, and they will be able to see where in the SOP they have a role to play. So we are all looking at key principles at the beginning. So we have all the key principles at the beginning. And then you would have where your function has an impact, there will be a spot to that. So this is something we've done. It's actually quite easy to do, and it really definitely change the perception on compliance procedures. What we've done as well, and I want to be a bit practical, so then you can have some things that you can implement at home as well, and sharing, some of the things we've done, using the company's social media, and using some light tone to convey compliance messages. So this was part of action we've implemented. We had a compliance week that was organized last year in December. And we had this road to compliance week in order for people to be prepped for the compliance week to happen. And those messages were posted every week or almost. We had 14 messages sent, 6,000 views, because we used the social media of the company, and we used some ways to make it broader. So we had 6,000 views for all those times, for people to be prepped for the sessions, and we conveys the key principles and the value behind the rules. So that's what we've done as a first step. And then second step, we had people, engaging and training people on case studies to prepare them for reality, with a focus on the expected behavior. So going back to having, making sure that we have the values and not the rules. So this is something we've done. So you can see, you have put two pictures here. You can see that we have first, when you have people it feels that they are dancing, but they are actually playing a compliance monopoly, where people would win market share because compliance is a competitive advantage. And the more you know about compliance, the more market share you will win. So that's something we've done. And then you look on the other side, we had compliance booth where people had puzzles, and they had to put back the puzzle together. I'm sure you're all aware about how is puzzle working. And so the piece was related to the key principles, the value, and then people had to put, the principles that are related to the value together. So that's what we've done. We've done also be a compliance officer for an hour, where people had, to put themselves in the compliance officer shoes and kind of look at the couple of trainings and things like that, and kind of tell us what would they see from a compliance perspective. So a bit of fun, loads of learning, and loads of takeaway. Definitely, the behavior change leads to a culture change only if your new behavior is perceived to make things better. So how do we measure this behavior change? So I'm going to cover a bit that, and some of the example will be covered. Will be covering also what I have presented. So the data we use to measure the impact on the action I just presented to you. So the measuring behavior is super important, because that will help you to measure how you have impacted the culture. So it's measuring the people, the behavior of the people, to see it has an impact on the culture. So for us, it's really hard as compliance officer, because if you think about an impact of a training, we think about how many people I trained. I trained 200 people. Wow. And so what? How many hours? We have had 200 hours of e-learning this year. Yes, but so what? So I think it's really important for us to really change from traditional KPIs towards behavior changes, KPIs. And I'm not pretending to have all the answers. I'm sorry. If someone has an answer in the room, put it in the chat, and then we can really definitely learn from that. It's just learnings as we go through, because it's a journey, and that's something we haven't been used to yet. So definitely something that is still going. But I wanted to present you a couple of data we've put into place based on the activities I presented to you earlier. So you remember we had this Road to Compliance Week, then we had the Compliance Week. This was able to really change the improvement of our documentation. So we had a base, which was a GACS, like a gap assessment we've done, an analysis, where we had 60% of failure in our documentation on a specific area. What we've done is, after this journey of education, communication, trainings, we could see we have an improvement of the quantity of the documentation and the quality. Quantity by 1.2 documents, and then the quality reduction by 50% of the failed documentation, and we could see the impact after 3 months. Because obviously, it takes a bit of time, so we could see 3 months. So that, I think, it's a great outcome, because then I can demonstrate, that we had an impact. I could see we had 6,000 views on the post. We had 14 posts, traditional KPI. How did change people's behavior? This is the data you want to have to be able to see how you're changing the culture. And then, if you remember, I show you this kind of nice, colorful SOP, which looked like a marketing document. And this was, how do we measure the impact? We actually measure on the interest it had on the company. So you can see here we had 98% of training completion within 10 days. So really creates interest towards compliance. Usually people wait for the last minute to do it, because it's something you have to do, but if you can do it at the last minute, that's better. So usually people do it at the end of the deadline. Here people did it at the first, so they had it in 10 days. We had 98% of training completion, which I think it's really good. So you can see different ways of looking at it. These different ways to see how we impact behavior. And I think this really helps us to demonstrate the real value of the compliance function. Therefore, you can have a seat and a voice at the right tables. And you can make sure also that you're positioning yourself as a business partner. So that's I think, where we should be going. And therefore, I would expect you to have less challenges to demonstrate the value, and therefore also maybe to get some additional budget. Because I'm sure a lot of people here don't have the budget they need to get the stuff done. So change happens if A, dissatisfaction with the present situation, B, a clear and attractive vision of the future, plus C, the first step, are bigger than the costs. So I hope today I was able to demonstrate to you that we don't want to be the compliance we don't want to be the police of the company. There is a really need for us to speak about culture and making sure that, we embed culture in the compliance. It's quite easy. You just have to change how you do things. And actually, it does not cost too much. So my call for action for you today would be, when you try to implement your new things, just think about maybe doing it differently. And I will close with this really nice quote I really enjoy. Given enough time and money, your competitors can duplicate almost everything working for you, except your culture. Thank you.